Hello. All right, so I won't hold you too long, but obviously, we've had a lot of breaking news today, just with Governor Abbott giving rescinding orders and lifting restrictions. What is your initial reaction to all of this news?
It seems pretty dramatic and a bit premature. We're starting to see improvements for sure when it comes to the hospitals and the number of new cases, but it's still very high, especially in areas like ours and across the state. I know the governor is referring to basically, if you think about it this way, that there's space in the hospital that it's okay to get sick with COVID, and that I don't think that should be the message. I think the message is that, the risk is still there, absolutely, and we need to keep doing everything we have been doing. And it just seems that from the governor's perspective, it's not going to be forced or mandated. But I think he was even clear of saying that Texans should know what they need to be doing right now in terms of wearing masks and being responsible about avoiding this illness.
And just in terms of Governor Abbott's announcement, I know that about 3.6 million people have received the first dose. About 2 million people throughout the state have been fully vaccinated. There are so many more millions and millions of people that make up Texas. So we're talking about maybe like 6 or 7% of people that might be vaccinated at this time, or even less. So what do you think the risk is of moving too quickly and reopening things when only a small percentage of Texans have even been vaccinated?
Yeah, the vaccine, I think for people who have been fully vaccinated, it's certainly becoming clear that it's going to be safe for them to start getting back to some degree of those most valuable things in life, like, visiting your parents. I don't think the vaccine is out there enough to make it safe for, big, large indoor events like concerts, for example, right? So we're nowhere near the number of vaccinations to get back to normal. But for people who have been fortunate enough to be able to get it, to get back to those truly valuable things in life, I think that's a great thing. But we're hardly at 7-8%. Texas is lagging, much of the country in terms of percentage of the population vaccinated. And at the rate we're at right now, it's certainly not a good reason to make any changes to what we all know we need to do to prevent the spread of this illness.
And have you guys had any conversations about enforcement or even some of the orders and mandates that you guys might be coming out with, just in terms of, Governor Abbott is saying one thing, how does enforcement work? Will counties have and local judges have the authority to, come up with a different plan and say, hey, we're moving in a negative direction, we might need to pull back and re-implement some of these orders? How will that work? And is that something that you guys have discussed?
Yeah, the governor's order is tied to the percentage of hospital capacity at 15%, which is rather an arbitrary number, and so is capacity. But the governor's order was pretty clear that county judges, if the region starts seeing an increase in hospitalizations, that county judges would have the ability to reimpose some limits, but not all, on venues that pose a risk. But inside of that order, there does seem to be some ability at a local level to respond if the hospitals are getting filled up again. And I really hope not to see that. If we're having to, re-implement restrictions, it means people are dying because of this. Yeah, if we're having to re-implement restrictions, it means people are dying because of reopening, and that we saw that already the first time. We got spring break coming up in March. I think that the timing is not optimal here.
Okay, I think we're getting some breaking news into our station, so apologize about the sound. But just what will you guys moving forward? What will you guys be advising? I know that the governor is saying lifting the mask mandate. It might be safe to go out and about to some of these restaurants at a different capacity. But what will you guys be advising Texans?
Sure. The governor didn't say it was safe. The governor is saying people have the right to take their own risks and, to get sick because the hospitals have space in them. And that we have, treatments now, if you do get sick and you're at high risk, that we do have treatments like monoclonal antibodies. I think that's what he said. So I don't think he said it was safe. I think what he's saying is that he wants to give people the right to take risks rather than have it restricted. That's my interpretation of it. I think that needs to be the message to people. This virus is still circulating. You're hearing it from the CDC advising against any sort of relaxing of mandates. But even just because the mandates aren't there doesn't mean we shouldn't do those things we all know. And the governor did say that. He said, Texans know what to do. And what we should be doing is still wearing masks, especially when it makes sense. When you're indoors around other people, we need to be avoiding crowds. We need to be doing the distancing until the vast majority of the population has been vaccinated. At that point, I think it becomes safe. And as people go and get the vaccine, sure, it's gonna start to be safer to take these minimal risks. You're seeing, guidelines. I think the CDC is gonna be updating guidelines about for people who have been vaccinated, how can they take some reasonable risks? But what I think this is just more of the right to take risks rather than say it's safe.
And how will you guys be preparing just in terms of a lot of people who might be excited about this new, the pullback of these restrictions? Spring break is coming up. A lot of people might be flocking to South Padre Island, not just people from different counties, but people from different states who still might not be abiding by, travel recommendations and might see Texas as a flagship of party and fun. So what would you recommend for those people who might be thinking Texas is the place to go for spring break?
Well, we're going to follow, the law as the governor set it out for sure. I think the county's always done that. And just keep messaging that, we know what we have to do to avoid this. It's not gone. It's still circulating at high rates in our community. We're thankfully seeing the wave that people are in the hospital going down. I guess we'll be ready to take care of people as they get sick. Please don't expose people who you love who are at high risk of this. If you choose to take risks, make them your own, and don't expose other people who can't take those risks. Just realize that's what you could be doing. That would be my message to people who choose to take risks. I guess that's in their power, but don't bring those risks home to people who didn't choose that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.